No, I know. Yeah, it's my fault. Well, oh, is this? Oh, sorry.
Agent, yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. We're just waiting for live streaming to start. Oh, it has started. There we go. We're back in the room, everyone. Councillor Bowser just declared an interest in it, so she's now going to leave the room for a moment. Don't let me forget she's gone out there. We might need her back in. That'll be your job, Councillor Turner, when you leave, to make sure that Councillor Bowes returns. Okay, so like I said, we are at Shibden 3PL 2022-1263, full application. And I'm going to hand over to Lisa O'Donovan to take the item.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the application seeks the transfer of an existing agricultural restriction from Meadowbank to a newly converted dwelling granted via the General Permitted Development Tolerances under Class Q. So this plan here just shows both properties with Meadowbank to the north there and the proposed restriction transferred property to the southeast. The transfer is required as the original farmhouse has been separated from the main farm holding and now has no link, but the Part Q dwelling has been permitted and lies within the main agricultural yard from which the farm is run. So the only material planning consideration in this instance is the acceptability of this change or transfer. Policy Health 13 relates to the removal of agricultural occupancy conditions and requires justification in respect of why there's no longer a need, and that the property has been marketed at a price which reflects the occupancy condition. But as this application proposes the retention of that restriction, just the transfer of it to another associated dwelling, there's no agricultural dwelling lost, and therefore the requirements of Policy Health 13 are considered to have been met. And as a result, the proposal is considered acceptable, and we are recommending approval with delegated authority to issue the decision once a legal agreement has been completed to administer the change or transfer. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Short and sweet and to the point. Councillor Turner, would you like to go first or last? Thank you. Okay, we've got Henry Osotta-Day, who is the agent, please. 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. I'll keep it brief as well. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This application, as Lisa said, proposes to transfer an existing agricultural restriction from the Meadowbank to adjacent dwelling, which is close proximity. It allows the farm to continue to work properly. Following a change in personal circumstances, the applicant seeks to remove this agricultural restriction in order to transfer it to be better placed on the farm where the operation will be now controlled from. It's proposed that the restriction is reimposed on the adjacent converted barn, which is in a better location to have the maintenance of the farm. Proposed transfer would not result in the loss of any agricultural dwellings on the farm and would be better served by the new building. With this in mind, it's hoped that the planning condition requiring a signed Section 106 agreement, which has been instructed by the applicant, will ensure that the retention of an agricultural workers dwelling on the farm will be a material planning consideration and thus hopefully finds acceptable by the local planning authority. We hope that the committee will consider the scheme positively and support the officer's recommendation of approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Turner, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm speaking both as a district and parish councillor for Shipdham and on behalf of the applicant in support of this application. The actual farming business has moved from Meadowbank, which currently holds the agricultural restriction, to the granary, which is the new adjacent Class Q agricultural workers dwelling. This is situated within the established working farm of 300 acres and which has been farmed by 3 generations, including the current owner, and which continues to be an integral part of agricultural life in Shipdham. The parish council is unanimous in supporting the moving of the agricultural restriction from Meadowbank to the granary, and I ask the committee to please support this application. Thank you.
Okay, it's open to questions from members. No. Oh, sorry, Councillor Plummer, you caught me on the hop then. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Can I ask the officer, if the granary had got permission to be converted, would that have been able to be sold on the open market as not an agricultural restriction on it? So really all we're doing is just, we're not losing. No, that's fine. That's all I wanted to check. Thank you.
Fine.
Thank you.
Yes, answer that for the purposes of the recording. Thank you.
Sorry, I was watching a recording the other day and I know when you're nodding that actually isn't coming across for anyone that's watching it. So just to confirm, the Part Q conversion to dwelling had no such restriction on it as condition. So we're not losing an agricultural workers dwelling, we're transferring the agricultural occupancy condition via a Section 106 from the dwelling house to what is now the Part Q, and those works have been done. So no, you're not losing one for the purpose of the recording.
Thank you. Okay, members all done. So on this item, I'm going to take the vote 3PL 2022-1263, full application at Shibdham. Your officer's recommendation is one of approval. Could I have a show of hands, please? That's unanimous. Thank you. That item's approved. Thank you very much, guys. Sorry about the wait. And many thanks also to our 2 cabinet members for allowing that to happen. Okay, our next one, we are going to go to Shropham, item 9A, 3PL 2022-0439F. I have Mr. David Napier, the chairman of Shropham Parish Council, Mr. and Mrs. Morford, who are the applicant, Councillor Philip Cohen, who's the aide. Well, that's said on here, see, so I was just reading, so I'm going to make you a Mr.
Please make me a Mr. in this case.
Mr. Philip Cohen, who's the agent, and Councillor Sarah Suggett, who is a councillor and is here as the ward rep. Thank you. Sorry? Oh, we've got Claire coming back.
Chris or Mandy, will you go and get Claire?
Linda should have done it, but she might not have been there actually. We'll just wait for Councillor Bowes before we proceed. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Over to you then, please, Matthew.
All right, good afternoon, councillors. So this is a full planning application at Shropham and its caretaker's house, Settle on Larling Road. It is an extensive description, but I'll read it all out. So the proposed development is for a building to provide residential accommodation for a site manager, private drive and hard standings, together with associated facilities, including an office, guest parking, laundry facilities, garage and stores essential for the management, maintenance, security and general upkeep of the holiday accommodation located at Settle. And just to confirm that the site itself is currently operating as a holiday accommodation destination. So here we've got the red line site plan and we've also got a blue line site plan. So the proposed development itself, so it utilises an existing access off Larling Road. And here is the red line site plan. And this is where the proposed building for the residential accommodation and also facilities relating to the operation of the site will be located. And just to confirm that the wider blue site, that the blue line here represents land ownership, and this also represents the wider holiday accommodation, which is situated towards here. So this is where the proposed building is, and then you'd come via an existing no-dig soft track road to where the holiday accommodations are situated. And this is just to give a wider site context. So as you can see, it's very wooded in its landscape. And as you can see, there are some buildings that are dotted on the site. These are already existing buildings related to the operation of the holiday accommodation. There is some more, just to confirm that this is a bit of an older context picture from Google Maps. So here is the proposed site plan. So this is just focusing on the proposed building itself. So here you've got the proposed building, and then you've got the access here for the building as well. And just to confirm that there are a number of trees that are situated around the proposed building as well. And here are the proposed elevations for the building. So as you can see, you've got the north elevation here, and you've got the south elevation here, and then this is the east and the west elevation. And there is also proposed solar panels on the roof as well. And here are the proposed floor plans. So this is the ground floor plan. So here you can see you've got an office and store, and you've got laundry facilities. These are related to the operation of the business. And then you've got a second and third bedroom with bathroom and a garage. And then you've also got a public entrance here. So this is for anyone who would be checking into the Settle. They would come via this access, but there is also a private entrance for the site manager and their family as well to the dwelling here. And then here is the first floor plan. So you've got an open kitchen, living and dining area, and you've also got a master bedroom with an ensuite as well, and you've also got a pantry. And just to confirm, you've also got a balcony as well. So you've got a balcony here, and you've got a balcony situated here. So there's also, as mentioned earlier, there is a number of trees that are on site. So the application is being recommended for refusal. I'll come to the main reason soon, but just to confirm, so our tree officer was consulted on the application, and though whilst it is noted that there is a tree constraints plan that was submitted in support of the application, they do hold concern about the information that was submitted, and they have since requested further information for a arboricultural assessment. So as you can see, you got the tree situated here. So coming to the main reason, I'm just going to jump back a couple of slides. So the application is being assessed under HAL 13. So the reasons why we've considered this under HAL 13 is due to the site itself is a rural destination, and we consider that the operation of this site falls under the realms of being a rural worker. And as the proposed dwelling is related to the operation of the site, it therefore means that this is technically considered a rural workers dwelling. And so for that reason, we have considered it under HAL 13 of the Brexland local plan. So in terms of the principal development, it is considered that the proposed scale mass of the dwelling is not acceptable. We feel that there isn't enough justification and reason provided for a dwelling being situated on site for a rural worker and principal, we do consider that the operation of the site is possible to be done without the need for a dwelling. And there are other examples of glamping sites which are similar in scale and size within the district that operate without a rural workers dwelling on site. And because there isn't the justified need for a rural workers dwelling on the site, it therefore means that we consider that the proposed scale and mass of the dwelling that is proposed on the site as unacceptable, and as there is no justified need for the proposed dwelling on the site. So just moving to a couple of site photos. So this is where the proposed dwelling is going to be. So you can see it here. Just to confirm, this tree here is proposed for removal, but there is proposal to retain the other trees around the site and the proposed dwelling. And this is just a further back picture. And then this is just sort of as you'd come to arrive. Just moving to the previous picture, as you can see, this is where Larling Road is situated, and these trees on the boundary are proposed for retention. And then here's just another picture where the site would be, where the proposed dwelling would be. So this is the soft track that leads towards the holiday accommodation. So you sort of come around, and then this is where you would come off for the proposed dwelling, and then the track follows round. So I've just got a couple of pictures just to show what this the existing site itself. So here you've got one of the log cabins that is where guests are able to stay. You've also got, so in the distance, this is a converted carriage. So they've got a couple of these units on site as well, and there's also permission for some other units to be allowed on site as holiday guest accommodation. So these are converted carriages that guests are able to stay in. So it's another type of holiday accommodation. There is a small shop that's on site as well. So guests are able to go into the shop and are able to get products for their stay. So this is inside the existing laundry facility. So you've got a cup. So this is where the existing facilities are. And the building for the laundry facilities, including the office, are situated nearer the holiday accommodation itself. So it's further into the site and away from where the proposed dwelling is. But if the application were to be approved, then these facilities would then be transferred to where the proposed dwelling is situated. And this is just inside of the office itself. And here is just a picture of stuff. So they do also sell products on site. And so these are just some of the products they do sell on site. And then this is just an airing cupboard where additional laundry is kept. So at the moment, there are 4 holiday lets that are currently let out. And so therefore, at the moment, this is what they're operating, but there is increased plans for a new carriage and also a new log cabin to be erected on site, which have since got planning permission, and the development has been enacted upon. So therefore they are extant permissions, and I can confirm that from a site meeting. So the officer recommendation is one for refusal, as the proposed development is considered contrary to policy HAL 13 with no justification for rural workers dwelling being on site, and also for insufficient arboricultural information. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Councillor Suggett, would you like to go first or last? You certainly can. Yep, that's why we asked. So I'm going to start, please, with Mr. David Napier, please. He's the chairman of Shropton Parish Council. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, good morning, and members of the committee, good morning. Last May, there was a site visit, and it was considered very important that there should be a caretaker's building, because this site is growing, and also with the existing facilities, things happen. And therefore, they need to be dealt with straight away, because what is essential is not just having the facilities, but in order to grow the business, you've got to be able to provide an excellent service and be on the spot to be able to do that. And so that is why the parish council, subject to what was initially proposed, a new access route, were very happy with it. yesterday I went round, rang round all the members of the parish council. I failed to get one, but I just asked them, what is your view? I explained that I'm coming in front of your committee today and I needed an update, please. And every single one said they were very supportive, not just supportive, but very supportive. And that is my view too. And I would be surprised if the parish councillor who I failed to get hold of would take a different view. And therefore, what I would say is that there is very strong support from the parish council for this application. That is very well known in Shropham, and it is growing the business. It helps other businesses, notably the butcher in Shropham. And for every good management reason, I think it is an excellent thing. And as has already been explained, you need to consult everything. You need the laundry facilities on the site. You've got to have everything on the site to deal with this. So the parish council gives particularly strong support. The other reason I went back yesterday was that not only was it 7 months, but the comments that were put in, parish council put them in on the 23rd of May. And it just said no objections at the end, subject to the road. And frankly, I don't think that was strong enough. And that is the other reason why I went round yesterday, to update and also to put all the cards on the table. Thank you, General.
Thank you very much. And we've got Mr. and Mrs. Morford, who are the applicants. You've got 3 minutes between you. Are you both reading? Okay. Yep, you've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Settle as a business. Settle, the Settle Parkland has been nurtured by our family for almost 50 years and has planning in place for 3 log cabins and 4 uniquely restored vintage rail wagons. In the last 3 years, 1 of these cabins and 3 of the carriages, together with the site's infrastructure, has been completed and is an operational staycation destination. Settle supports numerous local businesses and artisans and has also promoted Brooklyn on a national and international level, including Channel 4's Amazing Spaces in 2021 and numerous high-end publications such as World of Interiors and AD Magazine. Settle attracts guests worldwide and is a successful rural business, growing in its first 3 years to a turnover of over 200k, even through these turbulent times. Evidence from Settle's accounts shows support of this. Please see your copy. We currently employ 3 permanent and 2 part-time members of staff, as well as other external contractors. This number will increase significantly. Once our next 2 cabins and last wagon is in place, we project an annual turnover of over 500k. And in order to grow and fulfill the needs of the business, a permanent building to house the extra services required and the on-site staffing becomes essential to maintain its ever-growing challenges, of which there are too many to mention, but please feel free to ask after. Without this, the future expansion of Settle cannot happen.
Good morning and afternoon. The position of the caretaker's lodge within the park has been carefully selected in order to fulfill its role to welcome guests and to be a clearly visible location for the guests to call upon when issues and emergencies occur, but not to impact on the privacy of their stays. To maintain the safety and well-being of our ever-increasing number of visitors, and that of the parkland and of the surrounding environment, particularly last summer. Parkland and the environment. A permanent member of security staff needs to be on site at all times. At present, this is not possible. The location is a grassland area with no environmental impacts. As with our previous builds, it will sit harmoniously within the surroundings, with the use of non-imposing timbers and other repurposed building materials from my own reclaim yard, including the portal frame steel building, which the build has been designed around. The build itself will create not only a much needed sustainable space in which the business needs to grow, but also a sustainable family home. Our agent would be delighted to answer any questions regarding the building's green energy credentials. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've got Mr. Philip Cowan, please.
No, I'm it.
Agent. Mr. Philip Cowan. That's you, sir.
That is me. If you're happy for me to speak, I
And
will
you haven't got
speak.
any hats on today, just
No,
one.
no, that's fine. So
Members, you've seen the report, and the report actually raises a few questions about the viability of this proposal in its location. I would urge you to listen to what the applicant has said in terms of the way the business is managed, and I'm sure Councillor Suggett will be able to expand on that in due course. This building is designed around an existing steel frame which is to be repurposed. Its scale is entirely appropriate given the nature of the ground floor footprint, and that ground floor footprint, which you saw, is essentially driven by the steel portal frame. That ground floor footprint incorporates all of the necessary accommodation to support the growing business, which you've heard is quite successful in its own right at the moment, but needs to expand going forward. The ground floor footprint drives the first floor footprint, but in order to minimise the impact, the first floor accommodation incorporates balconies. The building itself has photovoltaic cells on the roof. It has solar power for hot water generation. It will also utilise the substantial pond that's located, and you saw that on one of the proposals, for essentially a water ground source heat pump technology to heat the building. There will be battery technology linked to the photovoltaic cells, and there will be electric vehicle charging points. The location is absolutely crucial because it actually overlooks the access into the site. At the moment, as you heard from Matthew's presentation, all those facilities are located deep in the site, and when people visit, the legibility of where they should go, how they should go, and how they should perform is a little confusing. This building is located specifically to position it so that they can acknowledge where they need to go and when they need to go. As far as the operational needs are concerned, strangely, guests don't always conform to their instructions that may be verbal or written. And consequently, as of this last weekend, a guest left the premises, left the gate, the main site open, left all the windows and doors open in the premises that they were renting. And as you will all appreciate, it was a little bit wet. Those sorts of instances occur on a daily basis, which is why it's important that a permanent dwelling is on site. So full-time, 24/7 management of the operation can be maintained. Guests also need to be safe and secure. The site is as you've seen, wooded. It also has grassland, and as John suggested earlier, during the summer, it can get quite hot, and we need to manage and maintain how people perform on the site. There's also substantial elements of deep water, which need to be managed and maintained. It is an essential use. The growth of the business has really promoted Breckland in its entirety. And I urge you to support this operation and overturn the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Suggett, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I do not agree with the recommendation of the officer on this application, and I would just like to explain why. The applicants have built an extremely successful business, which is no mean feat in the current climate. And I think the applicants were being quite humble when they said about the impact of this. I mean, they do support a huge amount of other local businesses, and they go right the way from maintenance, laundry people, up to those people that sell products in the shop on the site. But the applicants don't only want to continue this, they've got the drive and the commitment to expand and to develop this site further, but within keeping with what they've already got. And I do feel it's reasonable to allow a caretaker's site on lodge that's both functional and practical to be used as a dwelling, and to address a lot of the issues that, that the agent brought up a moment ago. This business attracts guests from far and wide, and it has helped put Breckland on the map whilst being very discreet. I'm ashamed to say that I was invited to Settle to have a look, and it's in the ward I represent. I've lived there all my life, and I had no idea it was there. It's really secluded. It's screened off the road, and I think this is where I struggle somewhat with the tree issues. It is sensitive. It uses a good wide range use of trees and a balance of greenery on the site. The applicant is looking to remove just one tree, which I think from what we could see, I don't think it was I'm not an expert, but I don't think it was a very valuable tree given the rest of everything which is on site. But why would they want to take down lots of trees? That's partly what makes the place such a beautiful, well sought after place to go to. And whilst I can understand policy HAL 13 being used to determine this application against, I mean, looking at it, it does tick all of the boxes for HAL 13. I think it's worth remembering what the applicant is asking for. And we usually largely associate HAL 13 with rural and agriculture. And our applicants are asking for a dwelling and a lodge to take care of their tourism business. This isn't rural as in what we would normally associate rural to be. It's very much ticking that tourist box. So I therefore think the reason I believe that I've come to these conclusions is I think it's sensitive, it's in keeping with what's in the area, and we should be helping our local businesses to thrive, especially in these difficult times. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Rebecca, you'd like to come in, please?
Thank you. I think members, it would be wrong for me not to interrupt and just introduce policy HAL 13 because it's not something we have at committee every time. So policy HAL 13 is your rural workers dwelling policy, and Matt's already set out that he considers that a dwelling in this location could be considered under that policy. There are 9 criteria to policy HAL 13, and they are very strict, and that is about limiting residential dwelling in the open countryside in unsustainable locations. So just for your benefit, members, the criteria are as follows. It can be demonstrated that a dwelling is essential to the functional needs of the business, and there is a need for 1 or more full-time workers to be readily available on site at most times. So we've heard today that there is a need for a caretaker on the site for security reasons. As Matt's already set out, we have a number of sites of this scale. It's only 14 residents overnight stays maximum currently. We have a number of these sites across the district which are managed remotely where there isn't a member of staff on site for those reasons that we've heard today. We've in fact refused those in other locations and won that matter at appeal. Secondly, it needs to be demonstrated that the enterprise has been established for at least 3 years and it should remain financially viable. Today, we've received some financial information about the business, and you've heard from the applicants about their turnover. We've had no such documentation that would significantly support that, and what we received today has been asked to remain confidential, so I'm unable to share that with you at this point. That there is no other accommodation within the site or holding or within the surrounding area which is currently suitable available. We have no information to say that other locations or locations, and the current location is not that far from the site as set out in their submission. A dwelling or building is a dwelling or building suitable for conversion to a dwelling within the site has not been sold within the open market in the last 5 years. We don't believe that that has happened. So yes, you would apply with criteria 4. 5, the proposed dwelling is no larger than that required to meet the functional needs of the enterprise, nor would it be unusually expensive to construct in relation to the income that that enterprise could sustain. Again, I will repeat, we've had no financial information to demonstrate that this is a business that is viable to sustain a new dwelling, either build or in perpetuity in this location, and is no larger than to meet the functional needs. So we've heard that you need a caretaker on site for security. Well, this dwelling is much larger than the need for just an individual person. And again, I would remind you that we have many of these sites operating across the district without a permanent person on the site. The proposed dwelling is sensibly designed and in keeping with its rural surroundings. We've heard at length about the qualities of those buildings and what your intentions are and the materials you're going to use. And you've heard from your officer that there's no debate that it is a sensibly designed building. The proposed dwelling will have satisfactory access. Well, you've heard already that the Highways Authority have no objections to the access, that the proposed dwelling is well landscaped and situated to minimise visual intrusion and in close proximity to existing businesses to meet the functional needs of the business, and there's no debate there. And finally, where the proposal involves a new business, so we've heard there is to be expansion of this existing business, and that's certainly to be welcomed along with other policies in the local plan that cannot yet demonstrate financial soundness. A temporary dwelling in the form of a caravan, a mobile home, a wooden structure that can be easily dismantled and removed from the site may be acceptable, provided that all the other criteria outlined above. And obviously we're moving straight to a permanent residential dwelling in this location. So as officers, we have obviously significant concerns that are outlined in your site that those criteria in policy HOW 13 are not met. However, members, obviously it's completely within your remit to look at that criteria in HOW 13 and reach a different conclusion based on what you've heard here today. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. It's open to questions from members. Councillor Kyburd.
Thank you, Chairman. Could I ask the agent, presumably the existing shop and laundry facilities are in somewhat poorly energy efficient buildings, and this would bring everything under the same roof and improve the sustainability of the site?
Thank you, Councillor Kyburd. The answer to the question is yes. You saw some of the images that Matthew, and very kindly Matthew, went out Monday, I think was this week, yesterday, and took these photographs. They're bang up to date. The facilities that are used at the moment are woefully inadequate, if I'm honest. They're in an inappropriate location because they're remote from the entrance to the site. And the whole purpose of this building is not just to provide caretakers accommodation, but it is actually to provide accommodation fit for purpose for this location. Hence the laundry is substantial. The proposal is to provide commercial washers and dryers and ironing facilities in that building. The entrance office is where you'll be able to identify what other products are available, and the shop will be located in there too. Hence, there's a store associated with it. So yes, the answer to your question is the existing building is woefully inadequate, is totally unsuitable. It was fine when the site started operating, but right now this is a new building, repurposed materials, well insulated, built to current day building regulation standards, and will provide a much more sustainable location for those functions. Thank you.
Did you say along that we would try to sort things out? Did you say the shop was going in the dwelling as well?
So the shop, as you saw, is a relatively small operation. The whole point is the office is where visitors arrive, and there's a store behind it, so they can pick up their supplies from there.
Yeah, so from a little building to shelving. Terrific. Councillor Bowes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Given this council's environmental policies and support for tree planting and the Queen's Green canopy, etc., I'm a bit disappointed that there hasn't been an arboricultural implications assessment submitted. Otherwise, I would feel supportive, I think, of the application, but I'm afraid without that, and given this council's policies, I don't think I can support it. How many trees? Councillor Suggett said that there'd be one tree removed. Is that the case? Are they likely to be more affected? And what sort of trees are they? Are they forestry type, pine or hardwood?
Mr. Cowan.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to find this quite difficult to answer you, and you'll understand why when I say it. This application was made in April of last year. And at that time, the arboricultural assessment was submitted that you've heard. Since then, we've heard absolutely nothing from the planning department about additional information until it appeared on the committee papers. I really believe that this concern can be addressed through condition. But I would have appreciated if the tree officer, when this application was submitted back in April, had come back to the applicant or the agent via the planning officer to request additional information. It would have been supplied. But to find the committee papers are produced and the question was raised a week before the committee is, I feel, totally unacceptable. But I agree with you, you should have it. And the applicant will be very happy to provide it. So the question about the tree, I think if I remember right, John, it's an ash.
It's an ash with dieback.
So that's the one that's coming out. There are no other trees that are immediately impacted by the building. There are some trees where there is a soft road dig, and you've seen the sort of soft road that's provided on the site at the moment, which sits around the building. But yes, we're very happy to provide that additional information, but we haven't had time to provide it because we weren't requested. It wasn't requested of us. Thank you.
Can I?
Yes, Rebecca's coming in. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I completely take Mr. Cowan's point on board about the lateness of the comments, but the fact remains, councillors, that this application involves the removal of a category B tree. It may be an ash tree, but the latest guidance with regards to ash dieback is that you don't remove them, that it has the power to heal itself, that you assess that over a period of time, and that you take into consideration the status of that tree. So it's a category B tree. So we wouldn't agree to the removal of a category B tree normally, because they're counted as significant trees and protected under ENV06, and the building in this location requires the removal of that tree. It is also in very close proximity, and I would say in the RPA, of a category A tree to the south as well, so that will need to be considered. So our view as planning officers, in consultation with our now arboriculturist and tree officer, is that those trees are significant trees in the context of ENV06, and therefore they should be protected and retained. So a building in that location wouldn't be acceptable in that regard, which is our view.
Councillor Attwell, please.
Let's start. Common sense would be a good place to start, I think, but I've got a couple of questions for Mr. Cowan, if I can, as the agent. Philip, I'm not familiar with this site at all, so forgive me, but you mentioned something earlier on about an existing steel frame. Could you just explain that to me, where that is, what that is, and have we got any pictures of it, please? And also, in terms of the arboricultural situation, you said there's ground source heat pump going in. Is that going to have an effect on tree roots? Or are you going to go down borehole, or is it going to be a big loop? How's that going to work?
Matthew, would you call up the site plan, the one with the coloured pond on it would be helpful. So I'll answer the first question before that comes up. The applicant currently owns and will continue to manage and operate one of the most successful reclamation yards in the east of England. And as such, they have an ethos about sustainable growth and development. They repurpose all sorts of building materials, from ornamentation through to steel frames, through to timber frames, bricks, tiles, pallets, you name it, they have it. And you will have seen from the image, well, you might not have realised, but the image of the cabin that was there on the site at the moment is completely constructed out of reclaimed materials. So that's their ethos. In constructing this building, my brief from the outset was to look at a building which would effectively replicate a rural barn, and then have the barn converted for additional use. And that's how we approached it. The applicant was able to source a steel portal frame from a building that was being taken down. We don't have any images of it because it's just lumps of steel sitting in the yard, councillor. But the purpose is to reutilise existing materials wherever possible, and that's what drives the footprint of the building. It's a very economical way of using recycled steel. As far as the ground source heat pump is concerned, as you can see from the plan here, this is the big pond over here, and the building is sitting in this location. This isn't the building, that's the pen where the goats are kept at the moment. So the building is situated here, and there's enough room to be able to bring ground source heat pump, or not ground source, but water heat pump pipe work 1.2 meters down in the ground from the pond over, oh, I've lost my battery, over there to the building. So it doesn't actually go, it's not a bore, it's not a slinky, it's actually using the mass of the body of water and the constant temperature that the water maintains at sufficient depth.
Yes, please.
thank you for the explanation on the steel frame. That makes perfect sense. On the ground source, if you've got to dig a trench across that site 1.2 metres deep, I suppose what I'm asking is what effect is that going to have on any tree roots in the area? Hence why I think it's important that we've got this arboricultural survey to determine that, because I don't think that's just the building that's important. Yeah, that's one question I've got in my head. The other one is in relation to where this building's going, could the officers just please, or the agent, just show me where the existing shop facility, laundry facility is? Is it a long way away from that? And where's the new building going? Up top. Yeah. So basically what you're trying to do is site the building in a location that's got the least impact on the trees on that site according to that map.
That's absolutely correct. And that's what goats are.
Okay, thank you. I've got councillor Wilkinson, sorry, councillor Wilkinson. And then you, councillor Bowes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to, if I'm allowed to ask, are the applicants going to move into the property? Are they employing a purpose manager and security officer? Because I am cynical at times when we have these buildings for this sort of thing and the agricultural thing, when they seem to be luxurious buildings compared to what has been built in the past.
The answer, the question is, are you moving into the building yourselves? That's as easy as that, yes or no?
Yes.
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 With our family.
With our family.
Yep.
We need to live there. We run the business ourselves.
That's fine. I think we've understood that part of it. Councillor Bowes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I'm slightly changing my mind because if this can be restricted to one tree being removed, I think common sense has to come into play. Rebecca's right that nowadays ash dieback is dealt with by like pollarding, but what about all the hundreds and more than hundreds, thousands of trees that County Council did have completely removed because of ash dieback? This is so to me, thinking about this is just one tree, and if it is only one tree, then I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I can go back a little while when certain members on the committee, if you said let's chop a tree down, would have gasped. No. Yeah, oh, that was a good one. Some people have got long memories. Okay, I'm going to ask a question which may help. I want to ask the officer that part of the presentation was that as a worker's dwelling, or whichever way title you want to put it, it was excessive. But if we take out the office and the laundry and the two, what I consider unnecessary garages, how much excessive would that be? By 25% or? Oh, thank you.
So Matthew made the point that the excessive nature of the dwelling is not supported by the need for the dwelling. So we aren't debating that this is a family household and their intentions of having an office and a laundry and all those things in that building, but there is no justifiable need for a dwelling and a family to be there on the first place. So I believe, and members, you can disagree with me, your starting point is House 13 is, what's the need for a dwelling on this site? Well, all we've heard, in my view, and you may have heard more than I've heard, is that, well, we need a caretaker on site for security. there is other members of staff? Could they individually be in a much smaller building on the site? You know, you've got your starting point with HAL 13 has got to be, what's the need for a dwelling in this location? If you can substantiate a need for a dwelling in that location, that then leads you on to the consideration, which is my view, is what then is the scale of dwelling that's appropriate. And the other thing I'd like to remind you of, the scale of dwelling should be based on the commercial nature of the dwelling, which you don't have in front of you to know that that is appropriate in this location, in my view. You also, when you're adding things in a laundry, well, there is a laundry on site. You know, would we permit another laundry that is much larger, much capable, connected to the electric, have a bigger airing cupboard? Well, given that there's an existing tourism use here, there are, you know, it's very likely that there will be another way of doing this. So my view, totally, members, is that you must start from the starting point of HAL 13. What is the need for a dwelling in this location before you come on to the scale? But officers have said that the scale isn't comparative to the need. Sorry.
Councillor Attwell.
Thank you, Chairman. The scale of the dwelling is subjective. So that's not something you can measure. That's a subjective view for this committee to decide. In terms of the commercial viability of the site, what other information would you need as planning officers to change your view on that? I mean, you're saying that you haven't got the information, but what information would you want? I understand you said you received some commercial information, sensitive commercial information this morning, which we're obviously not privy to, and you are. So if the applicant has given you this information this morning and we haven't seen that information, how are we to determine whether the site is commercially viable or not? I'm struggling a little bit here because, again, I don't think I've got all the information.
So you'll note that I've consistently said we have no commercial viability information for you to consider those relevant parts of HAL 13. The information that is being given to us today is confidential, and therefore, as I can't share it, it can't be taken into consideration in the determination of this application by either myself or by yourselves. You've heard from the applicants themselves about their turnover. We haven't got any financial documents to demonstrate that. We've got no costings of the dwelling to demonstrate that the business could substantiate that amount of growth. But what I would say to you, members, it would be very unusual that such a small operation as this would meet the financial requirements if we had that information to sustain a dwelling, and therefore the dwelling needs to be considered in its own right, and it is contrary to policy.
So I'll ask again, what information do you need as a planning officer to determine the commercial viability of the site? And obviously, what do you consider in terms of planning when it comes to the future viability of the business and the ability of the business to expand? Because I'm not hearing much about that either. We've got the here and now, but the fact is that if we put this facility on site, there's a chance that this business could grow and become even more viable. I'm struggling to understand what it is that you don't seem to take in consideration the future expansion, but you haven't told me exactly what it is that's missing in the jigsaw puzzle here regarding the commercial. What you're just saying, in your opinion, the size of the site. Well, how are you determining that? On what basis? What facts or figures do you make that assumption?
So members, your starting point is the policy, and the policy clearly sets out that you need the financial information to make a decision on the application, which I'm telling you, you don't have. So, you know, what I'm telling you is in several parts of this policy, part 5 says that the dwelling's no larger than required to meet the functional needs of the enterprise, nor would it be unusually expensive to construct. Where the proposed point 9, where the proposal involves a new business, so this is expanding, so it is going to be bigger, and that's part of the justification. You need to demonstrate financial soundness. We don't have that. You need to demonstrate that there is a need. So what is that need? And we're saying that part of that would be that the business was financially viable, and we don't know that. So I can't tell you what you need because I haven't got it to assess it. And therefore my view is totally my view is that HAL 13 requires those things to be submitted in order you to consider HAL 13 and the relationship with this dwelling. Obviously, members, if you don't feel you need that information to determine this application in accordance with HAL 13, that is completely within your remit to do so. But my advice to you is HAL 13 is clear that those factors are required, and that if you're basing your judgment on the expansion of the business, policy HAL 13 then goes on to say that you should consider a temporary structure first before you go to a permanent residential dwelling. So that is my view. It's completely within your remit to take an alternative view to that.
Mr. Cowan, please, if you'd like to come in and, oh. Oh.
So members, you will be very familiar with the concept of confidentiality in council business. And not necessarily in this particular room, in this domain, but we do take it very seriously. However, I have been given authority by my client to try and answer Councillor Attwell's question. I have here, and this is what I handed to Matthew earlier, a letter from Larkin Gowan, who are the accountants for Mr. and Mrs. Morford and this proposal.
Before Mr. Cowan actually speaks on this matter, two things. Do you think we need a lawyer in the room? And secondly, should we go into a closed session to consider this financial information and then go back into open session? Because there could be something in here that's detrimental to the owners that they don't want to know. They've said that's confidential to the planning officer. We're introducing some stuff here. I'd like a steer, please.
As the planning committee members, you must debate the matter in public. So we can't go into a closed session for you to take on evidence that is, if you consider what is about to be said is pursuant to your determination of the application, that must be done in a public forum. What I would suggest to members, and if the applicants are willing for that information to be public, that is within their right. And had they said to, had it not specifically referred to it being confidential, we would have, and we'd had it sooner, we would have displayed it on the public website. So, you know, that's completely within their remit. What I would say is if the chairman's happy and the applicants are happy, you could hear it. But on the basis of hearing it, if you feel that you need more time to consider it, or that you would need a viability consultant's opinion on that information, then we would need to defer and go away to consider it. But members of the planning committee, if you feel the information that you hear is information that allows you to make a decision on this application, then it's within your remit to do so.
Councillor Attwell.
So can I just ask, is this the information we're about to hear that you received at the 11th hour? So they are the same. Thank you.
It's the same bit of paper, which I haven't taken into consideration, but I have read, but it will be up to the applicants to read the sections of that bit of paper that they wish to read. So I'm not saying that they have to read the whole bit of paper just because I've seen the whole bit of paper, because I haven't taken it into consideration.
Can I throw another spanner in the works? Please. I'm sort of, this is a seesaw to me. There's definite defined policies that Rebecca is sitting on that side of the seesaw. And I'm getting a feeling from most, and I'm saying most, I apologize to those who have made their mind up policy wise, that somewhere along the line, this could be acceptable. We're looking at the future of this site rather than I do apologize for saying the shed shop and that type of thing. And it's going to make it more appealing to a degree that we could be back with more on that site, and it could be a jewel in the crown of Breckland. That's another viewpoint to it. And in consideration that we're going to a site visit to Old Buckingham for a field, right? You members voted for it to go and stand in a field and use our imagination. And on my way there, I will not be far past this site to go to Old Buckingham, New Buckingham, whichever it was, and to go on this field that has got some accommodation units on. I can use my imagination to imagine this dwelling, which looks very glamorous on the plans, but we've already been told we've got the steel frame. It's going to be built to look like it was an old barn. It's not going to look as glamorous as the architect's design. No. And again, I mean, no disrespect, it's going to probably blend very nicely with the other units on there. And so I'm putting it to members, whether anyone wants to second me on the degree of we should have a site visit and defer this item, that way taking into consideration the financial considerations there, etc., etc. So I've got a seconder from Councillor Gilbert. So from the chair, I would ask you to vote, please. We'll carry on if you don't agree with me, but to vote for a site visit. Could you have a show of hands for a site visit? 1, 7, and those against that? 4.
Can we have those against recorded, because if it comes back here,
They won't be able to vote
we wouldn't be able to
if you do not attend.
we don't know the text.
Yes, so could I have a show of hands for those who do not want to go on a site visit, please? That's Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Dygan, and who else voted against? Councillor Attwell, there was a 4th one. Oh, we changed it. Right, so we've got 3.
Can I just play Mike for a minute?
Please do.
I hope this was what Mike would say. So the steer with regards to the site visit is that if you voted to go on the site visit because you feel it is necessary to determine this application, then you must have gone on the site visit to vote on the application. If you voted that you've got enough information here, or perhaps what we might bring back, that you don't need a site visit, then it's in your remit to vote a second time round. So it's just slightly different to what you said. So those members that didn't vote for a site visit, you would have the opportunity to vote next time if you feel, and you may feel when you get to the next committee that you didn't go on site and therefore you're not in full knowledge of the facts. It's up to you members to determine it, but it's just, you don't have to go on the site visit to vote next time.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm not comfortable with hearing personal financial information of applicants. I don't think it's necessary to decide a planning application. We have policies set out in front of us, which we've used for many, many years, and they've been renewed over the years. So with respect to the applicants, I would not want to hear their financial personal.
And your viewpoint on the site visit?
No, I'm not going to.
No, your viewpoint on the site visit, or are you happy just to leave it at that?
I don't need a site visit. Yeah. Well, I've got enough information here today.
Yep, we've deferred for a site visit. I do apologise.
Mr. Cowan would like to say something.
Mr. Cowan.
Thank you, Chairman. I think that will be welcomed by the applicants, site visit. I would also urge you to look at the website so you can get a better picture of what happens on the site, and that information is available. What I can tell you without disclosing details is that this site started operation about 3.5 years ago. In that time frame, it has gone from a glimmer in someone's eye to an organisation that's turning over well over £200,000 with the current accommodation, and that current accommodation, as you've heard, actually is not the full extent of the consent that's been granted.
Thank you. I don't want a sales promo, but that's
I'm not-
very
I'm
good.
not.
No, it's well
I'm
said.
giving
Thank you. I've got
members-
2 more members wishing to speak. Councillor Plummer. Thanks, Mr. Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If Mr. Cowan gives the officers this information, can they then come back at the next meeting, your assessment of the viability of what's happening? Thank you.
Yes, they can. And I had Councillor Gilbert, do you think it's relevant now or?
Something was said about the size of the accommodation. Could you bring that slide up again? Or do we need to do it? Don't need.
Yeah,
to.
we
Don't
defer that now, so we'll cover that off next time. Okay, thank you. Well, that's it. It's the decision made. We're going to have a site visit and then and on from there. I do apologise. I don't usually get involved, but I just felt we were going back and forth like a yo-yo. Okay, thanks, members. We've gone over time now, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to